All right, ladies and gentlemen, turn to page 4-1. Now, this is a hard thing for a lot of instructors. It's called preparation and pacing. We have to understand the balance in preparing for any kind of a training. And the first thing you have to do is be knowledgeable. I can't teach trigonometry if I can't do a trig problem or understand where the trig problem comes from or what my students are going to have to learn afterwards. So that helps put things in context. So as you are preparing to teach a lesson, you're going to spend about half of your time reading over the content, looking up all the Bible verses, thinking about it in terms of something you've learned before, maybe comparing it to a book you've read, maybe going to the bibliographies that go with every lesson and seeing what there is that relates to it. But you're going to spend about 50% of your time making sure you totally understand the content that you're teaching. Otherwise, how credible are you? Now, after you've spent 50% of your time making sure you understand the material, you're going to spend 50% of your time preparing for the other I's. Now, understanding content means which of the I's do you know? Which are you covering?
Investigate.
The investigate, because you're going to be investigating content. So we spend 50% on what it takes for you to investigate properly, and the rest of the 50%, the other 50%, is going to be spent on the other 5 I's. That means you need to prepare, consciously say, how am I going to invite these learners? What am I going to use to illustrate? How am I going to involve my learners? How am I going to close this lesson with some kind of a, and I'm blanking, we used to have a different word in there. What's the last one?
Implementation.
Implementation. We used to call it impartation, and it didn't work. It didn't make sense. Okay. Implementation makes so much more sense.
Like a Freudian slip.
Yeah, really. Go to my children and sin no more. I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of Catholics, believe me, I'm not. Now that we've planned for that, we're going to think about the points you're going to illustrate. And I also want you to think about the learning styles that you're incorporating. So you're going to spend 50% of your preparation time in the learning styles and the 6 I's. And that way your presentation is going to be interesting for the people that you work with and really have an impact on the way they receive it. Okay? Any questions about that? Now, what's the rule of thumb for preparation time? There isn't one. Because where one person may take you 2 hours to plan for a 1-hour presentation. That is, let's step back a minute. My husband was a trainer for the U.S. military for a long time, and his job was to write new curriculum and create teaching things that were filmed and used at other military institutions around the world. And their rule of thumb was on every brand new course that you've never done before, you spend 2 to 3 hours for every hour you're presenting. Now, grant you the military paid them for 3 hours for every hour you were presenting. So the government was recognizing that when it's a new thing that you've never done before, you're going to spend more time looking up all those verses and looking up all that stuff and making sure you're fully aware and conversant with the content. As you've done this for a while, it won't take 3 hours every time. But you do need to be aware, take the time to read and understand the concept, and if that takes you an hour to an hour and a half to really go through all of that and look up the verses and read the appendices and look up some of the books that are in there, whatever that takes you, remember also to allow the time for the actual presentation part. The next thing is pacing. My students always complained that I wouldn't let them have the clock in the front of the room. I'm not stupid. I want to know what time it is, but I don't want you to. So instead of having you watching the clock and worrying about how much more time do we have and having your mind everywhere else but the lesson, then I'm going to have the clock where I can see it. And because I've taught for many, many years, saying, okay, the bell is going to ring at 4:38, so I have right now 20, it's 4:04, I have 24 minutes to finish this lesson. And I'm used to functioning in that, so I'm pretty conversant with how to maintain time. But first of all, you have to be very clear, how much time do I have? How much time are you going to do? If you're doing an all-day Saturday and finishing it up on a Saturday, then you are not going to do a 60-minute presentation. You're going to do a 45-minute presentation. So you have to figure out how to make it fit in 45 minutes. Now, how are you going to do that? One of the things you're going to do is have somebody listen to you and help you time it. Or you're going to prepare your presentation and present it to yourself in the mirror till you get an idea of how long it's going to take you to go through and teach this. It's also helpful, and I have a set, but I don't think they're in my box. Somehow I think they got left out. A set of cards that have 30 minutes remaining, 20 minutes remaining, 15, 10, 5, 3, 1, and 0. So if I'm doing a presentation or I'm having you present, I would have these cards, and you're going to have 15 minutes for your presentation. So when you've done 10 minutes, I just hold up the 10-minute card until I see your eyes, and then I put it down again. And you know you have 10 more minutes to work. And when you have 5 more minutes, I hold it up, and you know you have 5 more minutes to work. And if you have 3, and I'm going to help you stay on target. And when you are doing your presentations for your new learners, be prepared to have somebody do that for you, at least the first few times till you're comfortable with timing yourself. Because you can lose track if you're just doing a countdown. The other thing you can do, if it works for you, if your cell phone has a countdown timer, put your cell phone up on the podium and use the countdown timer, because it will tell you how much you have left. And then you're well aware of it, and you don't necessarily have somebody in the back trying to keep up with it for you. But in any event, you do have to be aware of the time and how much you have remaining, because there's times when you go, oh goodness, I'm squeezed. I spent too much time on that part and I need to move along. So you look at it and say, I need to talk faster, or I need to skip over something lightly and let the people read it for later and focus more on 1 or 2 points. Okay? So your tools can be your stopwatch or your time cards, but you need to practice ahead of time and make sure you're going to be able to do this in 45 minutes. Okay, we're going to do a little exercise to help you do that. Team 1, okay, you 2 guys are a team, you 2 are a team, and you 2 are a team. And on the next page in your book, we're in section 4, on page 4-3. 4-3 is the start of an example from one of the modules called The Leader's Balanced Life. And it goes through to page 4-10. So 4-3 to 4-10. 4-3 is the session outline. 4-4 is the objectives. What are the things we clearly want to cover? And then from 4-5 to 4-10 is the content of that lesson. And what you're going to do when you're partners right now is you 2 are going to talk together, And on the outline, you're going to label, after you read through this and kind of look at it, we're going to spend about 10 or 15 minutes on this, and you are going to read through it and decide how many minutes you're going to spend on each part of this session if you were teaching it. So your team is going to select the amount of time that you spend. That means you're first going to have to read through the lesson a little bit and find out what's in it. Okay? Any questions about what you're doing? Okay, read through the lesson, see what's in it, and in about 15 minutes we're going to talk, or maybe a little bit less, we're going to talk about what you've decided on these particular things.
Is it for a 1 hour?
45 minutes, because your lessons are going to be, you're doing all day Saturday but not Friday night, correct? Saturday only, not Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to be dealing with 45-minute lessons. Okay?
But right now we're looking at 4-3, right?
You're starting on 4-3 just to look at the outline, and then the content that you're going to teach starts on 4-5. So you need to be familiar with the content so that you can decide how much time to spend in each objective.
And we're going to 4-10.
Yes. It is a lot. But that's why if you don't do this pace of preparation
Yeah, what now?
and you've got that much content,
Yes.
you're really in trouble.
How many minutes?
We have 45 minutes.
I mean,
Oh, to do this, about 10 more minutes.
okay.